Welcome to Trustee Talk. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dick Murgatroyd, and our guest today is Josh Gerth, President of the Anderson Township Trustees.
Good to
Mr.
see you,
Prez,
Dick.
nice to see you again.
I like that, President.
Yeah, I do too. I'm impressed.
I know Andrew doesn't like when he hears President.
No, he probably
Gerth.
doesn't. No, he probably grinds his teeth when he hears that. But
He does.
I'm impressed. I mean, I like knowing presidents. You know, it's as close as I ever get to fame.
It's a little bit of a misnomer in the township world of government when you have three people that all share equal power. So I think what president really means is that I'm the first one to get a call if there's anything bad happening. So we hope the phone doesn't ring.
Well, that's good. I think that's a good thing because you alternate. What do?
We do, yeah.
Alternate through. So
Annually, yeah, we try and mix it up a little bit.
I think that's good, though.
Yeah, that person runs the meetings, and like I said, it typically is the person that is the first line of communication.
Well,
of course, out here, it's all good news. So.
It is. I was just going to say, who's going to call and complain about anything?
Well, right,
I mean,
exactly.
If you look at the, after I get done reading the Anderson Insights, I think, my gosh, is there anything in this township that somebody doesn't like? And I'm sure there probably is, but
you'd be surprised.
there can't be a lot. I mean, with everything that's going on.
We have our struggles like anybody else, and we have 45,000 people, so we're a big community. So it's hard to please every single person, believe it or not.
It is. You have to do your best to please the most.
You got it. You've been in government. You know how it works.
Yes, I do. I had my fair share, and I enjoyed it, and I'm happy that I'm on this side and you're on that side.
Well, I enjoy it too. It's been a great 4 years. It's been very busy.
Actually, that's pretty fast.
So it is, and it does. You're right. It flies by.
Yeah, it seems like you just got elected.
I know, it does. And now we got to run again.
There you go. We got lots to talk about. First of all, the annual meeting was recently held. What happened at that?
Yeah, so every year, and I think the township's been doing this for a while, certainly well before we got in office, we hold what we call a planning meeting. And it literally is just that. We spend all day kind of out of our normal comfort zone of their offices and our world, and we literally sit around a table and discuss what the current issues are and kind of what we see as the issues coming down the road in the future and how we might go about addressing them, or at least starting to have conversations about them. And I think that goes and kind of speaks to the proactive planning that this township does. And whether it's planning for road maintenance, whether it's planning the comprehensive plan that we've talked about several times on this show, all of those things go into, I think, a good business model, let alone good government. And so we try and use that to have a conversation. It's a public meeting, and so we have an open conversation about some of the issues that are at hand and how we might go about tackling them.
What came out of it? Anything unusual or different than what? I mean, you guys have been together 4 years, as you said, and I'm sure you've pretty much know kind of a direction where you want to go, and you've got a lot of things in the hopper. But anything new come out of that, or do you try to prioritize things for the coming period of time?
We certainly do. Yeah, I mean, it is always a conversation around money and budget.
Well, it has to be.
Yeah, and so that is the underlying factor to almost every discussion. Our role at the township is safety. I mean, that primarily is to police, fire, EMS. Safety is our number one priority. And so that's the biggest part of our budget, about $11 million a year for fire, another $4 million for police. So it's literally half our budget. So that consumes a lot of our resources, not only financially, but just time and things that we have to plan for. But as you know, we successfully, the residents successfully supported the safety levy last November, which was great because that helps sustain the level of service that everybody out here is used to. And it helps us continue to fill that part of the budget. But the way the township government works and the way the Ohio laws are around budgeting for our government specifically is, we have different buckets of money. So we have police, we have fire, we have road, we have planning and zoning, and we have a general fund. And the general fund is the catch-all budget that runs the administration, that runs our infrastructure, the building, And and then there's also what I would call a lot of quality of life things in that budget. And you can argue to some degree that maybe those aren't the priorities of our budget, but they certainly add to the things that people like about the township.
Oh yeah, so they're necessities. They're really necessities.
I mean, they are to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I mean, they round out what makes Anderson a great place to
Absolutely.
work. Well, the general fund is where we used to get the estate tax. We used to get a local government fund contribution from the state of Ohio. And over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, the governor has taken away both of those revenue sources. Now, I think everybody would agree that taking away the estate tax was a good idea. No one likes to get taxed twice. But the local government fund, that was done across the board because, well, I'm going to speculate a little bit, but I think it was done because the governor saw a ton of different governments. There's 1,300 townships in the state of Ohio. A lot of townships, probably 1,200 more than there needs to be, quite honestly.
I understand that.
But what happened was when he took away that local government fund, I think it was to send a message that everybody needs to tighten their belts. Everybody needs to make sure they're running efficiently without this subsidy, if you will. And Anderson fared well because we have been very good about our planning and how we spend our money. But it was still a big hit. And if you lump Anderson in what we call the large Ohio urban townships, of which there's probably about 75 that have either a population of 15,000 or more or a budget of $3 million or more, we're basically cities. I mean, if Anderson was a city, we'd be the 15th largest city in the state. So I think we are in a class of government that falls into the more along the lines of the municipalities like cities, villages, even county governments to some degree. So we have to be careful, and obviously like anybody else, about how we spend our money. But that revenue they took away has been very detrimental for that specific fund.
I'm sure it has.
And so trying to figure out how to recapture some of that has been what we've been working on the last 4 years. And quite honestly, that's all the development and all our support of that development, us pushing development. That is part of how we are trying to bridge that gap, because our only source of revenue right now is property tax.
Yep.
And if our property values keep going up and we have people keep investing in this township, we're going to be better off. Can we develop our way out of a hole that we have? I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
But at least if we're doing that, we're creating the value and trying to cut some of that spend that we lost, or some of that revenue that we lost.
Well, I mean, and I think that's a big hit. I think that's most cities, my experience on the other side of the river, I mean, they're dependent an awful lot on subsidies because they're limited on the number of resources they have. And when I was in the legislature, that was one of the cries that we heard each time they came is, we need more resources.
Right.
We need more for revenue, and we don't have. So if you start cutting, then it really does hurt, especially because it's a sizable amount of money and it's something you've learned to live on, and then suddenly it's pulled out from under you. It's not easy. It's not easy to make that up.
That's true, and we've been very good about planning for that event. We all, I think, even again before my time, knew that something like that could happen. So saving our pennies for a rainy day fund is what we've been doing. So we're fine financially, but that specific budget item, the general fund, is something that we are concerned about. So we have to figure out how to replenish some of that.
Yeah.
And by the way, we've cut a tremendous amount of money out of the budget, and I mean we're talking millions of dollars through things like the collaboration with Newtown on the fire, so we don't have to build new fire departments. We've cut a lot of things out that, probably you would consider fluff. I mean, we really have tried to do that, but at some point you can't cut anymore.
No.
And revenue, and that's where townships fall short of city and even county government. I mean, our revenue sources are what we're deficient in.
Yeah.
And some townships have JEDs, we do not. Some townships have hotel taxes, we don't have, although we're working on that. I'd love to get a hotel, and that's part of what we plan on doing. That's part of actually what came out of the planning. We really want to go after something like that.
Well, you almost have to create sources,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the ways to do it. You don't have, now some some cities and they have payroll taxes and they make money off
Oh,
of
right.
payroll taxes.
Oh, yeah.
If they have, I mean, you know, if they have a pretty sizable business population in their cities.
Sycamore Township's a great example of that, where they are in the Kenwood area. So they have Kenwood
Yes.
Town Center, they have all the office buildings around there, and they have a JED. They have a Joint Economic
Yeah.
Development District, so they can pool payroll tax from those businesses, and it helps tremendously.
It helps a lot. It makes a lot of
And we don't
difference.
have that, nor do we have nearly that type of business in our township. And we have a couple bigger employers, but we don't have what I would call a concentration of office
No.
tenants or manufacturing.
No.
Yeah.
No. So I mean, it's a struggle. You have to sit back and figure you all have done a really good job of managing your finances over the years. I mean, because that's why this township has flourished, that they've been able to do that. And you guys are now you unfortunately you're the guys who get hit with suddenly.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a hunk of money that's not there anymore, but I think you're more prepared than a lot of places are.
I think we are, because it is a priority. We make it top of line, you know, in our conversations, and that's why we've maintained this. I mean, we have one of the best credit. We have a AAA credit rating. I mean, that's for a government
pretty
entity.
darn good, yeah.
It's pretty darn good,
Yeah, it really
and it allows us to again to kind of save for that rainy day.
Yeah.
We've never really used it to the extent of, you know, borrowing money to do like special projects, for instance, but it's there if we need it, and that's why it's important to maintain it.
Oh yeah, you've got to do that. So the budget now, when's your budget? I mean, are you into a new budget now?
We will start. We started talking about it. We have to present a preliminary budget in July, so that'll be our first official kind of look at one. I mean, we have one out now that we kind of like are honing in on.
Yeah.
But yeah, July we'll start the process.
So the big challenge there again, though, is trying to figure out how you make up for that those dollars that you don't have.
You got it. And we've got a couple of things we're talking about doing, but you know that is on top of all the other things that we have to do and all the other things we have to be concerned about. And you know, those range from, and some of the topics we talked about ranged from economic development, which is great. That's a lot of fun to talk about.
Oh,
What are we
yeah.
still missing in the township? But then we also are talking about things that I never thought we'd talk about. I never thought when I got elected that I would be having the conversations I'm having now about drugs, specifically heroin
Yeah.
and marijuana. And I say marijuana because, as you know, the state passed the
Yep.
medical marijuana law, which I'm not here to debate whether you like it or don't like it, but what the impact is to us remains to be seen, because people are going to want to grow it, process it, and sell it.
Yep.
And so, do we as a township allow it? Do we allow part of it? You know, is it okay if they grow it here, but we don't want them selling here? I mean, all those things, these local governments across the state now have to take into account.
So that does fall into the local government.
Oh, sure.
Prerogative as far as what they want to do, how far they want to go with it.
You got it.
Once it's passed, so you're not forced to do it if you don't want to.
Right. And interestingly enough, and I still don't understand how this works, but you know, they pass these laws, but they do it, and then they work backwards to figure out all the rules and regulations. I mean, only our government knows
Yes.
how to do that, right? So what's great about that, though,
They're
is
still
that
trying to figure it out.
well, they are, and so we don't even know what all the rules and regulations are going to be surrounding, you know, whether you're a grower, whether you're a distributor, whether you're a retailer up on Beachmont Avenue, for instance. We don't know what those are. So what we did last week at our planning meeting is we placed a moratorium for a year on any activity related to medical marijuana. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to look at it, but until we have more information, until we have more conversations about, one, do we want it anywhere in our township, and two, if we do, what aspect of what I mentioned do we want?
Yep.
Do we want all of it? Do we want some of it? And quite honestly, is there a benefit? I mean, it'd be great if there was some financial benefit for this, but as far as we know, there's not. And that's where, again, townships get, I mean, we kind of get put behind the eight ball because we
Yeah, you
don't
do.
have the ability to do fees and special taxes that other municipalities and
Right,
governments can
right.
do. So, of course, people are probably going to look at townships because they don't have the
Well, sure.
regulations, but
Yeah.
on the other hand, we're not getting any benefit. And I'm not just talking about marijuana. I mean, it's other things too.
Well, but I think you have to look at that. I mean, because obviously, regardless, it creates some liability factors for the township, which
we think it will
cost you more money. So you got to figure out some way that you balance that out.
Right.
If you're going to do it, I mean, they've got to give you some ability to do that end of it as well as provide the space for it.
Right. Right.
And that's got to be. That's a major. I got to believe for any community, that's a major mountain that you start to climb.
You're going to hear a lot about this topic over the next year.
Yeah.
I mean, 2017 is going to be the year where medical marijuana presents itself and people try and figure out how to deal with it. And again, I'm not saying that we have the Ancor area, for instance, in our township, which is down Round Bottom, the Newtown area. People think it's Newtown. It's actually Anderson Township. Like the Park District has play fields down there and soccer fields, baseball fields. I mean, that's an area that has struggled to do anything because we have poor infrastructure. The roads aren't that great. There's not sewers in a lot of that area down there. And so other than a few businesses that have been down there for a while, it's kind of like, well, what do we do with that area? We don't have the money to fund a bunch of infrastructure. We don't, I mean, Waterworks and the sewer district are the ones in charge of all that. And that whole thing is kind of crazy right now. So we don't know any of that's going to happen. If something like this came along and somebody wanted to build a grow site or a processing plant to some degree, and I don't even know what that looks like, but if they wanted to do that down in the Ancor area, and if that sparked some other development or interest where we could get some other things done down there, is that a bad thing? I mean, maybe not.
No.
But I think we're going to have to look at this, and that's why we're not going to make any decisions right now until we know more information.
Well, I think you're smart to do that. I mean, and again, because of the fact that you're again, there's got to be some benefit financially for the township. I mean, they've got to consider that. I don't know whether that will be part of the regulations, part of the whatever, because I mean, you are going to be taking on, more responsibility in many ways.
Right.
So that's got to be a factor for you. How's the heroin situation? I know continues to be a major issue.
Yep.
I mean, I guess a lot has been done, a lot's being done, a lot of talk. I mean, are you making any headway? Do you feel like you're really making any progress at all?
Well, actually, you just said a very interesting point. There's been a lot of talk. And I would say if we're making headway, I would say it is in the area of awareness. And I can't sit here today, and I have been involved with this now for the better part of 2 years. Not only locally here in Anderson and what we deal with here, but on a regional basis, trying to get elected officials to figure out what role we play. Hamilton County has a heroin coalition. Northern Kentucky has a coalition. Claremont County has a coalition. Everyone has people in place trying to battle this. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm one of the people that are going to come up with the answer. But if I'm in a position where we can, again, go back to the state of Ohio, who's now has this rainy day fund that they've collected from taking the money from local government, if I can be part of the group that pushes the state to say, look, we figured out a plan of how we're going to address this, but we need $2 million in Hamilton County to make that happen, then I will be part of that group to apply that pressure to get that money.
Absolutely.
And I think the state's on board. They know it's a problem. But right now in our local community, it's really just continuing to let people know that it is an issue. It's a problem. It's a growing problem. Anderson is not drowning in this issue. I mean, we've had, a dozen overdoses. We've had a person killed. We've had impact, but not to the extent that some other communities have. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stay on top of it, that we shouldn't be proactive, because I'm afraid of what would happen if we don't. And right now, it's really a matter of going out in the community and telling people what we are seeing, introducing them to the programs that are out there, telling them what Hamilton County Heroin Coalition is doing. We have a phenomenal resource in Tom Simon, the chief of police down in Newtown, our next door neighbor. I mean, he is all over this topic, and he happens to be right here in our community. So we're just trying to continue to tell people you need to pay attention. That when we say the word heroin, you go, oh, heroin, you know, not my issue. It is your issue. It's everybody's issue.
Yeah,
it's an epidemic, and we are going to have to figure it out.
Well, I mean, and I guess that's the frustrating part, because is trying to figure out what kind of progress you can make to really start to stop or slow down the process.
Right.
And I don't think anybody's found that yet. I think everybody's.
People will argue some. Is it treatment? Is it arresting our way out of it? Is it a combination of both? The recovery. What's that look like? How do you get people back into society that have been on it? All those things play a part in the success of beating this thing. I don't know if there's any one answer or one assembly line that you that you put in place to make it work.
I don't think there is, because there's too much. It's too personal, and you hear a lot of people, and you find a lot of people that just for some reason or other cannot get off of it. They just can't get away from it, even though they may go through the treatments and everything else and come back out of that. And in a short period of time, they're back again. I mean, there's something that I don't know any of us understand, that there's people that drives those people, or I mean, I think in some cases people are searching for something that doesn't exist. They figure that's the answer, but so I mean, I don't know how you find I don't know if there's ever going to be one fix for it, because you're dealing with so many different personalities out there,
right?
And it's not just I mean, it's any family is subject to being hit,
right?
So it's
absolutely.
You still have the safe line?
Yeah, we do. Yes,
safe line, which is 513-688-8098, right? So if they call that, if they have any suspicion of someone that's either using it or on it or whatever.
Yeah. Because it is. I mean, it's not just the social service aspect, and it is an economic development issue as well. Every time something happens, every time a car is broken into, every time someone sees it happen in a parking lot, and God forbid if something happens like it did last year, where the father, the husband, was killed while riding his bike. I mean, those stories permeate our community. I mean, they just, and they bring a bad light to a very positive momentum out here.
Well, they do, and people are looking for. You said very early on the show, that one of your major issues is safety for this community, and if you can, and people will move here because of that.
Right.
I think that's one of the things they look for. So.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, it's a terrible issue, and like I said, all the people I've talked to, everybody's in the same boat. They'd say, "Well, we're working on it. We haven't found the answers, though." And
yeah.
Maybe never. I don't know if you ever will.
Well, I think they will. I think they will. There's something is going to start to come together. I really believe. There's too many smart people working on it, so they're going to figure out something.
We hope so. We hope so. We talk. One of the things you mentioned you want to talk about are cell towers. What's going on with those?
Yeah. So everyone loves all the poles around Anderson Township and on Beachmont Avenue, and cell towers are our newest enemy. And what is happening is a lot of people want better phone reception.
Of course.
Naturally. But they don't want a cell tower in their backyard, of course. Okay, so what we are looking at now are companies are coming in, and these are private contracting companies, are coming in and putting these, what they're calling micro towers. All it means is that they're not as tall as normal poles. They're up to 70 feet, okay? Those they are placing in the right-of-way of property. I mean, they're coming in with the right to put these in the right-of-way without basically getting an approval.
Oh, really?
And they're doing it under the cloak and dagger, if you will, of it's a public utility. Well, I think we could all sit here and argue whether or not cell phones are public utilities. I mean, they might. I mean, even if they're not classified as that, they basically are in the sense that, I mean, that's what everybody uses now.
Exactly.
But the problem is that you have private companies taking advantage of public easements.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to what are our rights as a township. I mean, if we continue just, if we don't have any say in this and they can come in and put them wherever, that's literally what they'll do. They'll put them on every corner.
Yeah.
They'll put them in front of every building. You'll have them in your neighborhood. You'll have them in front of schools. Wherever. If we can figure out a way to regulate this to some degree, and I hate using the word regulations, but if we can figure out a way to regulate it to the extent that we give some input on where they can go, and God forbid we actually get some money out of this, like they have to pay to put these things in. I mean, they're certainly going to benefit from them being here, so I suspect that it's worth some amount of money for them to have them.
Well, yeah.
And that's what we're fighting. And a lot of the right-of-ways are county property, and so we're having to have discussions with the county of, well, who's the one that's giving authority? Whose property is it? Who should be the one to sign off on it? So it's a little complex.
Another one of those great pieces of legislation that has no guidance.
No teeth. No, I mean, it's it is frustrating. I mean, you think that everything's going along fine, and then next thing you know, you got an issue like this that has potential to be a real problem.
It really does. It really does. Yeah, it's a big one.
But everybody wants better cell phone service.
Well, they do, but like you said, I mean, there's got to be some sort of at least order as to where and how you do that. And again, it goes back to what's in it for us,
right?
And you have to look at that. I mean, what's the deal? They're doing well, but good luck on that one, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah.
You got some fun things ahead of you.
It's we're just going to place moratoriums on everything until we get something we want.
Well, if you can do that, at least if you can do that, that's good. If you can at least put a
it literally, well, not literally, it figuratively buys us some time.
Hopefully.
And maybe literally will buy us something later on.
I hope so. We only have about a minute left, and the only thing I'm happy to say is I read in the Insight. There's a great article in the front of Insight, which I hope everything you want to know that's going on in Anderson Township inside this great publication. Anyway, the fact that the continuing flow intersection is going to be operative by the end of May.
It's going to be, and it's going to be amazing.
And I can't wait.
I know. Everyone is so freaked out about this thing, and I've said to many people, as long as you know how to drive, pay attention to signs, follow directions, and stay off your cell phone, you'll be fine.
You're asking a lot.
I know.
You really are. Especially paying attention.
Yeah.
And following signs.
It's going to be a little confusing, I'm sure, at first. But
well, it is going to be. Every time I go through that intersection, I'm trying to figure out how this is all going to
That's part of the
work.
Problem, though, because right now it still looks like it's
you
got all the lights and the old lights. And
I mean, it's crazy, but I'm anxious.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, I've waited.
And by the way, if it's not, remember, we had nothing to do with this.
I will remember that. I won't call you.
This was done 10 years ago, for all you listeners out there.
That's right. Don't call the president. I will.
Call Andrew Pappas.
Call Pappas. He likes to take those calls.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for being here.
Always
good
fun.
To see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, and thanks for all that you do, and good luck in your presidency there. I'm glad to know a president. I've been wanting to do that for a long time. So,
thank you.
Yes, sir. You're good. You're good, man. Thank you all for joining us and making time for us today in your busy schedule. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I am Dick Murgatroyd, and on behalf of our producer director Shane Reiner, we invite you to join us for the next edition here on ACTV of Trustee Talk. And our guest at that time will be the famous, infamous,
in his own mind,
Andrew Pappas. So till then, have a great week.